Hi, folks. Got an absolutely amazing guest. We speak sort of once a month, and I see him out and about. He is the hardest working politician out there. He's been to Brighton, he's been to Liverpool, he's been to Southampton. You're getting around, aren't you, Nick?
Yeah, you're getting about all over the place, Liam.
Tell us about Brighton, because I heard all these reports that, it was sort of very aggressive from the left and everything. What was your experience of going down to Brighton?
So the Southeast Patriots organised the demo in Brighton, and they invited me to lead and speak. And I took no pleasure in saying to our community leader, great guy, also called Liam, in saying, "Listen, pal, there are a lot of new people on the scene. Let's be absolutely clear: Brighton, Bristol, and Liverpool are far left nests. The councillors." Which kind of brings us on to talk about what we're gonna, I'm sure, talk about tonight in political context. The
Yes.
councillors, the mayor, like you name it, like elected officials, right? They are all left wing or unholy alliance, whether they're socialist, Marxist, Islamist, the unholy alliance. They also have access to the buildings there where they work and the top floors of places. And and you got to understand the police are going to be put in a position where socialist worker parties front stand up to racism, the front of socialist worker party, they'll throw 2,000 people, and they'll
Mm.
have 200, that if there's 10 exits, they'll have 200 there, 200 at the second one, 200 at third, all the way to the 10th exit. Or in terms of our route, should I say, in all these routes, they'll throw 200 people, which is quite a lot of people in a block, and roads aren't that narrow. You get the idea, sort of thing. So they'll throw 2,000 people at that, they'll bust them in, etc. So I did my bit, and he said he was happy to go ahead. I thought, brilliant. That's the answer I was looking for. And the whole point of doing something like that in Brighton, just like with our attempts twice now in Whitechapel, one to be political, two to be religious, is to essentially test the water. Is to see, well, what kind of reaction are we going to get from these
Yes.
communities who identify as socialist, liberal, communist, and then you, Liam, and the other good people that do the media stuff, you get the footage, which is that these people are absolutely rabid. These people are
Yeah.
feral. They will stop at nothing to ensure we weren't politically campaigning as such. We go from point A to point B. It's a march, to protest. Again, how could you not join in unity if they're coming here as asylum seekers and they go on to rape and murder? That is completely unacceptable.
So, what's your personal experience of a march like that? You worried about your safety, or do you hire extra staff?
Me, the participants, the activists, my team, it's everyone would describe it in exactly the same way. It is a very high pressured, very stressful environment in the context that there's no weapons and there's no bullets flying past you, and you're not seeing your brothers being taken out, having their limbs blown off, their heads blown apart, bullets through the heart, that kind of thing. In the context that that's not happening, it's a very high pressured, very stressful environment because the referee in the match are the police. And the
Yes.
police, the ordinary plod can be escalated to riot. And then you've got a special division of riot as well. And they've got the shields and the batons, and they dress in more in black bloc. And those guys there's no women in those squads. They're all men, and they're all trained to deploy physical violence. Maybe nothing more than that, but definitely the threat of force. So you've got a side of 200 in the battalion of the left, and then you retreat and you go a different route, and there's another group of 200, then you retreat and there's another battalion of 200. So you're getting slowly but surely penned in, which is exactly what the leftist blocks, these commies, exactly what they want to do. And then the point here in terms of pressure and stress, in terms of the environment, is you've got the police control everything. So if the police say you can't go that way, you've got a line of riot police, and they will use force. Then you try the other way, you've got a line of riot police. So the psychological warfare bit comes in, where you start to feel contained, you start to feel pressurized. And of course, this is really good, solid character building stuff for activists in the making. When we say we're taking our country back, it's going to be 10 times worse than the kind of stuff I'm describing to you right now. But if you chuck in heat when it's hot in the months that we do this,
Yeah.
July, August, June, July, August, September, it is very difficult. And then it's very difficult. We'll leave it at that. And then the last bit is the left. They're
Mhm.
armed with bottles of urine, and at the risk of sounding crude,
Yeah.
if you're in a stressful situation and you get fresh urine thrown on you, it's time
Mhm.
to man up. It is what it is. But
Mhm.
if it's stale and a week old, which is typically what they
Ah.
do, Liam, that's what
Mhm.
they'll do. They'll urinate in the bottle, they'll keep it. It's hot. It
Mhm.
stinks. That's never coming out of your clothes, and you feel violated. And then if they're going to get really spicy, which they can do sometimes, even
Mhm.
though these people aren't fighters, they used to
Mhm.
be. We'll see what's coming in the future. They'll put razor blades in bananas and satsumas and oranges. And of course,
Mhm.
if you're just throwing fruit, right? Like and you make sure there's
Yeah.
no fingerprints on the blades,
Mhm.
you're just throwing fruit, and they will
Mhm.
do that. Obviously, and then lastly, there's the chucking of bottles. Of course, everyone's drinking out of stuff, so they'll throw that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
ultimately, I always instruct the right as best as I can, bearing in mind I can't control everyone. Immaculate behavior. You see me in the speeches
Mhm.
when I first start a million times
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Immaculate behavior, comply with police, no nonsense. But in terms of the left's ability to throw numbers and block and then throw
Mhm.
things, all this does is incite. If you're on the receiving end of that, as you can imagine,
Mhm.
all that does is incite.
And also, I mean, you are the focal target, aren't you? So really, they're going after you more so than anybody else that's there.
Yeah, I think so. It's a really interesting dynamic between I'm the focal target, but they also fear me and my security the most. So
Yeah.
yes, I'm the target, but it's very difficult to describe. But after coming up to 3.5 years on the front line, week in, week out against
Mhm.
Marxist, Islamist, commies,
Mhm.
debate stands, protests, sting operations, they're very unlikely to go for
Mhm.
me because we take all the right precautions
Right.
and we take all the right measures to send the message to these people that protection will be deployed against you if you
Mhm.
choose to do that. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Mhm.
Brother Charlie, last September,
Mhm.
again, a guy with a rifle on a roof. Again,
Mhm.
whatever you want to believe about what did or didn't happen there. Look at Tommy. Tommy's a
Mhm.
marked man.
Yeah.
A lot of people really feel for Tommy's situation,
Yeah.
how it's even remotely possible that they haven't got to him yet. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess my final point is that this carries with it huge risk, but
Mhm.
we are in the battle for Britain, and the leadership mantra that I've created is that we're taking it back. Well, we're at war. We're
Mhm.
taking it back from who? From what? Those aren't soft words.
Mhm.
So that there is risk, and everybody knows the stakes getting involved.
Okay. So tell us about Southampton because you went down there for the Henry Nowak thing. How were you received and what took place?
Yeah, it was very interesting actually because the police liaison officer came up to me. Obviously, we're very polite and very cordial
Mhm.
until it's time not to be. And he said, "Look, just so you know, Nick, the Stand Up to Racism lobby have formulated over the other side of the road. As you can see, I could
Mhm.
see that, and they said they've asked, and we've explained to them that you've got 3 minute silence planned."
Mhm.
And to which I said, "Yep." And they said the police liaison officer said the left have decided stand up to racism, whatever you want to call them. They've said we're going to have
Mhm.
3 minute silence as well. That's
Okay.
never happened before, Liam. That's
Mm.
never happened before. They were completely
Mm.
compliant. They didn't chase us. They didn't
Ah.
try and pincer or
Mhm.
aggravate or meet at the end point outside Southampton Cop Shop along that very long route from Portswood to Southampton
Mm.
through places like Highfield, for example, down the avenue. They could have mustered at different points. They could have
Mhm.
done all sorts. They didn't, and they were silent for the 3 minutes as well, which
Wow.
shows that they've gone. Do you know what?
Mm.
Actually, we're starting to see this. We're starting to
Yeah.
get this. It's in our backyard now. We're starting to see the point. We're empathizing. That's never happened before. It's very difficult to explain because you need the
Mhm.
exact example in different situations to compare it, which I
Mm.
don't have. But I did find it interesting that a social media person, pundit, whatever you call them, woman called Narinder Kaur, she's got
Yes.
quite a big social media platform, and she was
Mm.
in London in the last couple of days, and her phone
Yeah.
got stolen, and she made the executive decision to pull out the phone. Well,
Yes.
presumably she's got a second phone. I mean, I presume that's the only way she could have done it, and
Yes.
explain to her very large audience that she's A, in London, and B, just
Yes.
been robbed. Now, she is the mouthpiece for Stand Up to Racism. She's Stand Up to
Hmm.
Racism have got lots of different celebrities, obviously Narinder Kaur and Zara Sultana, these
Hmm.
people, Carol Vorderman, etc. And
Yeah.
of course, for Narinder to do that goes against the established narrative. So we've had
Hmm.
two examples in the last 4 days where the
Hmm.
left potentially en masse are and just to throw in a little bit of information for your audience, the group called Antifa, which is a
Yeah.
domestic terrorist organization, but
Hmm.
it's largely made up of kids, which the intelligence services know, which is why they're not overly rough with them, but they
Hmm.
still have, a malicious intent on Britain. They are a domestic terrorist organization. They've put out various posts criticizing Stand Up to Racism Southampton, deliberately
Hmm.
saying you are absolutely done as far as we're concerned, guys. You
Really?
cooperated with the police, you cooperated with Nick, you cooperated with Southampton Patriots. They name drop all these
Hmm.
different people, me included. So just for your audience, are we
Yes.
potentially now seeing with the
Hmm.
Trumpification of America and
Yeah.
everything that runs down into Britain, guys like Tommy, guys like me, other good people, even Nigel potentially trying to move to the right a little bit sometimes,
Yes.
all these little glimmers, maybe. Is it possible
Hmm.
that the leftist faction have gone, they've woken up a little bit and gone, would you know what, guys? We can't actually justify the
Yeah.
asylum seekers, the refugees coming
Yes.
here. We actually can't justify this rhetoric anymore, and actually, maybe we're seeing a potentially a change there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting that Narinda, she was there, wasn't she, in Chelsea when you did your march through there? So she's obviously sort of following you around a bit,
Well,
I would think.
Knightsbridge was it was a very interesting situation because she came. It was, I think it was September, maybe September, and she came. She, as you saw from the footage, she came over to us. There
Hmm.
was a section 14 in place for Stand Up to Racism, and she's there. And of course,
Yeah.
they're very sneaky. They come down in ones and twos, so they're not part of the,
Yeah.
the Stand Up to Racism in Whitechapel.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
gave her a piece of my mind, just to it's not something I want. We got other things to talk about, but I will say this, Liam.
Yeah.
We do come from the perspective and the worldview of the Christian worldview and the Christian perspective, and we believe in second chances. But these people first have to show contrition. They have to
Yeah.
start. These people that have big platforms. I'm not talking about the underground workers within Socialist Worker Party. That I know who these people are, but then they're nobody, so it's not worth mentioning to your audience. But in terms of the Narinder Kaurs and the Carol Vordermans, they have a fantastic opportunity at some point to take to face the camera and say,
Mhm.
right, I've got this wrong. I'm sorry. The liberal mindset is the disease. The narcissistic personality is the disorder, is the condition. We got this wrong. We did call them refugees. We have seen enough. We are importing people that have incredible mental health problems. They snap
Mhm.
and then they turn to specifically white-skinned people, and
Yeah.
and then also there's the rape genocide of Britain, which we're not going to go into maybe just yet,
No.
but who knows what we're witnessing happening now, Liam?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the by-election because I know you want to talk about that. Yeah, the division of the right. We talked about this the sort of last time, and then we've now seen the result. Do you think that the right will unite more after seeing that result?
First thing the Patriots have to understand about Makerfield is that myself and too many other people to name right now made the exact same forecast. A guy like Rob Kenyon,
Mhm.
who Nigel's soldier, as I call him, and Restore's soldier, Rupert soldier, Rebecca. We
Mhm.
all forecasted the exact same numbers. Rob would with a social media profile and his current standing as councillor, whatever level, he would get about 15,000 votes. He got
Yes.
15,000 votes. Rebecca would get between 3 and 6,000 votes. It's exactly what
Mhm.
she got. And Andy Burnham would get 25,000
Yes.
votes. So many people, Liam, made that same forecast.
Mhm.
So, in terms of the futures market, to your audience, I would say this: you must listen. And again, too many names to mention. You're one of them. You must listen to these people who you put your trust in, whether you call them pundits, commentators, etc., media guys, influencers. You must listen when we're dealing with the futures market. You must listen to them because these forecasts are being proven over and over again. The
Mhm.
Tories are just nowhere to be seen. They're just failing. Reform
Mhm.
can't quite beat Labour. They can beat late in 24. They can beat Labour in some places, but they just split the vote with the Tories in 72-ish constituencies, which gave Labour the supermajority. And I think it's like 115. I forget the numbers now. But again, for your followers, for the Patriots, that in our first past the post system, splitting of the vote is a very, very real thing, and it is being demonstrated time and time again in the context of modern day right-wing, centre-right politics between the Tories and Reform. And now, Liam, with the invention of Restore, we now have a third faction. Now, as you know, I was on the scene way before Advance, way before Restore, my missions, my 72-page manifesto. So in British politics, you've got to have three things. One, vote share. Two, polling. It's kind of the same thing. And three, momentum. So I am still here waiting for the Patriots. No different from summer 24, coming up to 2 years to the day. No different from the creation of Advance and the entire hype around that entity. No different from the hype around Restore, February, March. That hype is no longer there. And some very big online social media accounts, which were the front men attack dogs for Rupert and for Restore, they've decided to withdraw their support, or they've decided to start saying, look, actually, you know what, we're not actually party political. It's absolutely exhausting to see this over and over again. So you have, obviously, in terms of who comes along first, that's not an argument that holds any water, because it is what it is right now. So let's talk about unity based off of the description of Makerfield. This situation will continue over and over and over again, whereby either the vote is split, or let's just say as it is, we're defeated. We, the Tories, Reform, UKIP, Restore, we're defeated. So Restore did 7% with Rebecca or something like that. Again, 3,000 votes. It's not enough. It's sorry, wait a minute. Was it 6,000 votes? It's not enough. It's not enough, Liam. So it doesn't matter if you come at it from the understanding of the natures of the dangers, rather, of splitting of the vote, or from a disunited right, or from the power and insurgency of Labour, which just lends itself to us talking about how on the right people aren't registered to vote, or but if you are registered to vote, you'd vote. So the key problem here is that the people aren't registered to vote. I think it was 57% turnout. So a huge amount of people not registered to vote. And it's no point in talking about registered to vote versus turnout. The vast majority of people who are registered to vote will then turn out and vote. The only reason why you're not registered to vote is because you don't care. And the reason why you don't care is because you don't trust, you don't believe the Kemi Badenochs, the Nigel Farages, the whoever's. Over the years, we've had other leaders as well. And there are a lot of names to mention there concerning the Tories. But the vast majority of people who can return a majority aren't registered to vote. They can vote to return the majority, but they're not registered to vote. So we're going to see this happen over and over again. Now, if you'll permit me, that tragedy, that calamity is happening in the context of this brand new party called Reform that has everything a party could want. It's got the millions in funding. It chose not to have Elon. That's quite an endorsement. It chose not to have that. So Reform, and they're tanking in the polls. So Reform, and Nigel's potentially maybe going to move on, and Zia's now, the right wing guy, which is potentially problematic. So at what point do we say that we should back the lead horse and unify around the lead horse? But in terms of winning locals, and this goes for Restore as well, and principalities, that's not a majority. That's your little principality. That's not a majority. Look at what Labour have done, Liam. Look at what they've done with Andy Burnham in Makerfield.
Unbelievable.
They are absolutely walking all over the right. This is about traditionalism and right-wing politics and conservatism versus progressivism. That is it, cut and dry. These people are walking absolutely all over us. Something isn't working. So let's just agree in under 30 seconds now in terms of concluding with regards to, do we need to unite? The thing we've never done is potentially the thing we absolutely have to do, which is to unite. And in a first past the post system, I have come up with the math. I've come up with the algorithm. I know what it looks like. and it goes something like this: Kemi, Nigel, Rupert, myself, all of us must meet. All of us must agree a strategy which could not be revealed to anyone, by the way,
Hmm.
in podcast format. Of course, it goes without
Yes,
saying, total
absolutely.
seclusion and secrecy.
Yeah.
But it was that there would be four distinct families, four
Hmm.
distinct parties, all having their own donors, all having their own messaging. Ours is explicitly Christian, Kemi's is not. Restore have a lot of ethno-nationalism and
Hmm.
ethno-nationalist sympathizers. Again, that's absolutely fine. That's not what we hold dear to us at UKIP, whilst acknowledging demographic
Hmm.
replacement. But white people, Liam, aren't having babies. We're not having children. And also, if you want to get with a non, I don't know your personal situation, but if you want to get with a non-white, that's your business. So the
Yeah.
demographic argument, which Restore and Rupert and the ethno-nationalists, again, they can be like that. So I'm not being disparaging, but Kemi's flavor, Rupert's flavor, and Nigel's flavor isn't working. Now, you
Hmm.
know, obviously, where I come in, Christian
Yeah.
nationalism and our
Yeah.
Lord, by the grace of God, with our Lord beside us in Jesus' name, that saves us. But I said under 30 seconds. I've probably been way over
Mhm.
that. It is possible for your audience, all four leaders unite, photo op, handshakes, put everything to one side, and we just come up with a strategy which blocks Labour. It's like playing chess. Sometimes you
Yes.
advance, sometimes you block, sometimes
Hmm.
you set up two moves in advance. So anyway, I'll wait for I'll have the next question, Liam, because I could go on and on about
Yeah. Sure.
unifying the right now.
Did you feel any joy when Keir Starmer resigned? What did you think about him tearing up? Were you full of joy that he'd gone? What were your views?
Yeah, so that I guess that's perfect. After what I've just said, that's perfect to talk about next. No, I did not feel joy. I did not feel release. I did not feel relief. I did not
Mhm.
feel anything in terms of some minor points with regards to him choking up. We're all the human side. It's a hugely emotional thing. So yeah, like I get it. But did he choke up over Southport? When he
Yes.
did he ever choke up over Henry Nowak? I give speeches
Mhm.
on BB, Elsie, and Alicia all the time, and on Henry Nowak all the time, and I can't not. My voice will go. I can't not
Mhm.
because it's because these are kids.
Yes.
They're kids, and I don't have any evidence that Starmer choked up in any way talking about these things, Liam.
Mhm.
So no, I don't care that he choked up. I don't care that he's gone. Should we be happy? No. Why? Because all the aforementioned. If I put a bow around all that now, here's where we're at in
Mhm.
terms of not abusing, but in terms of our system.
Mhm.
The by-election in Makerfield was able to be forced.
Mhm.
Make of that what you will. The guy has stepped down. He's given up the
Mhm.
salary, the
Yeah.
allowance, the prestige. I forget the guy's name now. Like
Yeah.
he no
Yeah.
one knows who he is. He's
Yes.
stepped down to allow for Andy to stand. Andy's land slided it, which again we've
Mhm.
spoken about. Hugely
Yes.
problematic. The right is not winning. The traditional conservative right is not winning over
Mhm.
progressivism. Now the media are absolutely all over Andy as the new
Mhm.
prime minister, and
Mhm.
all the papers are saying, and it's like, wait, hang on a minute, he hasn't been voted in.
Mhm.
Internally, he also hasn't been voted in externally, i.e., to have a mandate. So
Yeah.
the whole thing is just incredibly unsettling. But I guess at the point I want to get across to your audience is, do you see how organized the left are? Do you
Yes.
see how choreographed the left are? Now, I'm no fan, and I think that leftist mindsets, leftist policy, and leftist dogma leads to the ideology of progressivism, which, on the whole, outside of some one or two points that we all know about from history, progressivism is fairly backward. It's fairly fascistic. It ends at the fascistic point because it's based on freedom, rights, choice, but it's not based on anything conservative. It's not based on anything common sense based. It's purely based on emotion. And I think that
Mhm.
the British public is very much awake to the fact that the leftist mindset, the ideology of progressivism, policies, etc., it's all fairly toxic. But look at how, no fan myself, but look at how organized, look at how disciplined, look at
Mhm.
how ready, prepared, and choreographed, Liam, these people
Yeah.
are. Because
Mhm.
Andy right now is sliding into Makerfield as of a month or so ago.
Mhm.
got the election. He's now sliding into number 10, selfie with 300 soldiers behind him, all going, yeah,
Mhm.
you're the guy. He
Mhm.
looks younger than Keir. He's slightly less annoying, slightly
Yeah.
less irritating. He sounds slightly less nasally. And
Mhm.
it's a chance to do a Tony Blair. You and I were both obviously
Yes.
tiny bit older than me, but you and I both know
Yeah.
what happened in 1997.
Mhm.
Tony Blair, fresh faced,
Yes.
and just he had everything, had everyone,
Mhm.
just yeah,
Yeah.
Blair, Blair, Blair. But
Yeah.
behind it, the progressive agenda is Marxist in orientation. So we need to explore Andy Burnham's role as mayor of Manchester
Yes.
during during all the different inquiries, specifically
Yes.
the Augusta inquiry, which you and I
Mhm.
know about, Liam, but
Mhm.
your audience may not know about. But that
Mhm.
aside, because I'm sure you're going to ask me if we've got
Mhm.
a few minutes, that aside, you asked me, am I happy? No. Andy Burnham is likely another puppet that can be
Mhm.
used by the globalist agenda, which is far left in orientation, but also another puppet
Mhm.
for the hundreds of soldiers that he's got in Parliament.
Mhm.
They're all subscribed to the progressive agenda. They're not subscribed to the traditionalist conservative agenda. So the attack on free speech, two-tier policing, two-tier
Mhm.
justice, two-tier language, two-tier governance, and the continued allowance of refugees, so-called, into Britain. Liam, all these things are going to continue, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Only got about 5 minutes left. I mean, what level of frustration are you at the moment with the whole system?
Yeah, 10. 10,
Yeah.
10, 10. And here's the thing. I'm not going to name names because uniting the right means that so okay, this is not a poor me thing, but for your audience, uniting the
Mhm.
right means that I know things about people on the right that I can't tell you because you
No.
can't unite the right. Obviously, if it was okay, disclaimer, if it was anything underhand or illegal, of course,
Mhm.
yes. And you do that, but that's a moot point because that's common sense stuff. But I know big accounts who identify as being on the right who in summer
Mhm.
24 were Nigel and Reform, end of
Mhm.
discussion. Then they were Advance, end of
Mhm.
discussion. Then they were Restore, end of discussion. And I have to
Mhm.
keep watching this happen over and over again. This momentum that we call, that we so-called momentum, Liam, that we describe in British
Mhm.
politics, that you've got to have. Everyone, bar me, has had that.
Mhm.
Everyone, bar me. We know that. That's the truth. We can
Mhm.
say it. It's fine. I'm younger than a lot of these guys,
Mhm.
Nigel, Rupert, etc. God bless them.
Mhm.
But the momentum is there. When
Mhm.
Elon and Trump, they already know about me. We can presume they already know about me. I mean,
Yes.
American media, an awful lot. I don't share it because they're just screenshots and they're just links where I'm referred to.
Mhm.
But if we, Liam, can get the momentum behind the Christian nationalist message, if
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
can get some of these big online accounts, again, I'm not going to mention names there, but when I say big online account, I mean more than 500,000 subscribers on
Yes. Yes.
platforms
Yes.
like X. We know
Yes.
that the politicking done on X. It's not done on Insta.
Yes.
It's not done on TikTok. It's not
Mhm.
done on Facebook or YouTube.
Mhm.
It's done on
Mhm.
X. If
Yes.
these people lower the fists and
Mhm.
swallow the pride and go, do you know what? We've got 6 missions and a 72
Mhm.
page manifesto and a leader who's ready to go. We want unity. We've got
Mhm.
it. We want collaboration. We've got it. There's no disharmony at UKIP. There's no fracturing at UKIP.
Mhm.
At some point, someone maybe groups would be nice, but it's unlikely. But someone's
Mhm.
got to go. Do you know what? I think we've got this wrong. I think we need to go back to basics. It is about the street game. It is about the
Mhm.
ground game. It's about the ground swell. And actually, we've got this entity which I think deserves backing because this is the guy who's saying, and
Mhm.
forgive me, I can speak with Kemi. Nigel doesn't want any. Kemi doesn't want anything to do with Nigel. I can speak with Nigel. Rupert doesn't want anything to do with Nigel. Nigel doesn't want anything to do with Rupert. The only person, Liam, who can speak to these people is
Yes.
me. The other
Yes.
three can't. If you do the math,
Mhm.
it doesn't work. So let's
Mhm.
hold a good thought. Let's pray and let's hope that you and so many other people have gone above and beyond to promote me. But there are an
Yes.
awful lot of people out there that still aren't promoting me. So we
Yes.
now, in the context of wishing to unify, we now, we must all now say to them, sorry, why aren't you promote? Because a lot of these people are a-party political. They don't really
Mhm.
care who they
No.
promote. And they've
No.
got no issue promoting Kemi and the Tories when it suits them. They've got no issue promoting Nigel Reform, Rupert Restore when it suits them. When does the tide turn to us, Liam?
Absolutely. Now, really important, we have 3 minutes to go because we do want to promote you. We do want to promote you. So where can people, if they're really interested in you, where can they see you on social media and everything?
Absolutely. So on X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook and YouTube, it's at Nick Tenconi. There are one or two. I think it's TikTok. Sorry, I think it's one or two where it's at Nick Marcel Tenconi. My middle name is
Yes.
Marcel, so it's at Nick Tenconi or at Nick Marcel Tenconi. All you got to do, if you'll permit me, Liam, for your audience, all you got to do is jump on one of my social media channels or all of them and follow. That's all you got to do, and then you got to sit and wait and watch. I won't
Mhm.
disappoint you. I won't fail. I won't stumble. If God has me for this mission, if that's his intentionality for me on this mission, I will continue to stand with my community leaders, with the patriots at street level to produce that inspiration and hope throughout Britain. To go back to my very first point, to get people registered to vote, because at the moment you've got these little fiefdoms and you've got these little principalities and these media storms and this fantastical, fanatical nonsense that goes on in the media world around certain people that doesn't produce a majority, and it doesn't challenge the Greens or the Reds. We must challenge the Greens and the Reds. That is the chess piece, that is the blocking stuff. But we must also, blue sky, return a majority. So we know who's registered to vote in Britain and who's not. And we know, Liam, it's millions of people on our traditional, patriotic, conservative, right wing, nationalistic, Christian side. We know that millions of our brothers and sisters, Liam, they're not registered to vote. So, and
Yeah.
they're not involved in politics and they don't understand. Choose me as your leader, follow me as your leader, get registered to vote. The rest I will explain along the journey. But I
Mhm.
will say before we have to break, in summer 24, I was told Reform were going to do the business. It was going to land. They were going to landslide it. Here we are now, 3 years away from the next general election. If anything, they're tanking in the polls. There has to be another way. Maybe we've already got that.
Fantastic. Look, folks, I have huge admiration for you, Nick, because you stand up for your truth. And, it's not an easy position to be in. And very brave, very brave. So, folks out there, check him out. Check out, if you haven't seen him before, I'm sure you have. But do sign up for all his social media because the man has got a great voice and a great message. So, thank you very much, Nick. And we'll see you again in another month's time.
Thank you so much, Liam. God bless, mate.